if you haven't heard, it's looking like Auburn is going to be looking for a new football head coach after it's basically been revealed that head coach Bryan Harsin has been having a marital affair with his wife, with some student that he met when he was at Boise State. That's kind of the way I understand it. He's basically was when he was at Boise State, he was having an affair with this girl when she was in college at Boise State. Then after he takes the Auburn job, he brings her over to Auburn and ends up convincing Auburn to give her some assistant to the athletic department or one of them types of jobs. Basically, he hires his side piece to work in the athletic department. That way he can be with his side piece and continue to have his affair on his wife with this this girl that he met at Boise State. I don't know her name. I don't think that's really important. I don't think people really do need to know her name. If you can go online, you can find the pictures of her. I've actually seen what she looks like, and can't really blame Bryan Harsin. Now, I'm not sitting there saying it's okay he's cheating on his wife or anything like that. I think cheating is one of the worst things you can possibly do in a relationship. But it looks like the morality police is out to get Bryan Harsin fired. Now, do I think cheating on your wife is a fireable offense? Honestly, not really. Whether it be I work in a factory. I make seats for Honda vehicles. I got people cheating on their wives all the time. Working out at my shop. It happens all over the world, everywhere, every single day. Whether it be a football head coach. I don't necessarily think it's a fireable offense, but he probably will get fired. The morality police are out in full force, and the morality police gets involved, the guy has already been fired. Now, if Auburn's going to fire Bryan Harsin, they're going to need to do it now before they wait too long, because if they fire him now, they can fire him for a cause and they can get out of paying him his buyout and everything else that involves with his contract in terms of all that stuff. Now, of course, this is coming off the heels of a really bad season for the Auburn Tigers in football. I think it was if they went 6-6, 7-6, something like that. I think they went 6-6, 6-7 after their loss to Houston in their bowl game in the Birmingham Bowl. And that really wasn't a surprise to anybody who's watched those two teams this season. I think anybody that watched those two seasons expected Houston to win there. That's why I put money on Houston in that game personally. But do you have the morality police all over Bryan Harsin's case? If let's say Auburn went 9-3, 10-2 in the regular season, do you have the morality police all over and the Auburn fans all over Bryan Harsin get fired in this situation? Probably not. They'd probably be saying things like, that's between him and his wife and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of bullshit like that. But, of course, Auburn was terrible last year. Terrible by any type of Auburn fans' standards, even though they should have beaten Alabama. Alabama escaped with that one because Auburn didn't know how to take the ball down in bounds. But, and it's kind of funny. You go in a lot of these forums and threads and stuff like that, and you start to see who the Auburn fans want, and it's honestly kind of laughable because you're wanting Bryan Harsin fired because he's cheating on his wife and the team was god awful last year. But if you go on these threads, the Auburn fans are wanting to bring in Hugh Freeze. Yeah, Hugh Freeze, the same guy who got fired at his last job for bringing in prostitutes to recruits. Bringing prostitutes into recruits. On one hand, he's sitting there talking about the love of Jesus Christ, and then on the other hand, he's talking about, hey, you still coming for my players? He's got prostitutes on the phone, which is pretty ironic here. You're literally going to bring in, Auburn fans want to bring in a guy who literally has was hiring prostitutes for recruits. That doesn't even make any sense. Maybe Auburn fans seem to have forgotten that. And it's kind of ironic because if you look over on the basketball side of things with Bruce Pearl, when he was at Tennessee, he was having an affair with his wife and got Tennessee on probation. So, and you guys are basically slobbing all over the knob of Bruce Pearl right now. You want to know why? Because Auburn's ranked number one in the country. Auburn's ranked number one in the country in basketball. So naturally, you guys forget about things like that when the team is doing good. When the team's on a roll like Auburn is in basketball under Bruce Pearl, that affair thing with his wife back in Tennessee doesn't matter anymore, does it? Same with reason if Bryan Harsin had a great first year at Auburn, nobody'd be saying anything. Y'all would be saying, well, this is between him and his wife and everything else. And we all know how that goes all the time in sports and stuff like that. But that's just kind of my thoughts on everything going on. I guess in some other college football news, earlier this week we had Caleb Williams transfer from Oklahoma to USC. That's not really a surprise because Lincoln Riley taking the job at their USC. Sorry, I literally was sitting there talking and literally drew a blank on Lincoln Riley's name. I was sitting there like, man, what in the world's his name? But with Lincoln Riley taking that USC job, it's not really a surprise that Caleb Williams would go out there. He had a really good year whenever he ended up taking over the starting job at Oklahoma. He had a really good year this year, had a breakout season under Lincoln Riley. So it's not really that much of a surprise that he would go out there and reunite with Lincoln Riley out at USC. I still think that's one of, if not the best hires of the coaching hires in the offseason / end of the season, however you want to look at that for a lot of these teams. I definitely think Lincoln Riley's going to have USC back to where USC football is supposed to be, and that is dominating the Pac-12 in my opinion. I think USC is one of the top 3 programs of all time. And they've been down for a little bit now, but I think Lincoln Riley is going to be a slam dunk hire for them. I think Lincoln Riley is going to have them back to what the standards of USC football is and get that fan base excited again. And I definitely think getting Caleb Williams, a really good quarterback, to go out there in the first year for Lincoln Riley, I think can really, really help. I know I meant to make a full video on that earlier this week and got a little bit busy and wasn't able to. But I think that's really about all the college football news we have for this week. So, Texas A&M finishing with the greatest recruiting class of all time, apparently, with 7 recruits, 7 5-star recruits. That's kind of almost unheard of when you really think about that. That's like, I remember seeing something that was like, they basically a third of the 5-star recruits or something like that. That's pretty incredible when you really think about it. And a lot of people seem to be mad about it. And I don't understand why. And I don't really seem to understand why so many people are upset about this. They keep on saying, like, oh, they must be offering them NIL money and blah, blah, blah. Well, of course he is. You got to adopt with the times and the changes. I mean, it's like when they eliminated shots to the head in football. Every team had to adjust. When they stopped allowing this, teams had to adjust, and this had to be done, and the teams adjust. Well, you're going to have to adjust to the new NIL rules and deals and all that. And that's what Jimbo Fisher's doing down at Texas A&M. He's using these NILs to his advantage in getting these recruits. And I don't understand why so many people are angry about this. I mean, it's just the way college football is heading. And personally, I'm okay with it. If you can promise NIL, now, of course, the university itself, Jimbo Fisher can't come out and say, hey, I'm going to give you $2 million or whatever to come play at Texas A&M. Now, obviously, the school still can't do that. And it's kind of hard to promise these things, but the NIL opportunities at Texas A&M must be pretty good to get 7 5-star players to commit, which I believe is something kind of unheard of. Outside of maybe, Miami. I don't even necessarily think there was like 7 on one team at any given time there. Even though as great as those late 90s, early 2000s Miami teams were. But you've got to adopt with the change, and this is one of the reasons why I think Clemson has fallen from grace here, and I don't think you're going to see Clemson win another national championship under Dabo Sweeney. I think that dynasty is done in of itself. And I'm actually planning a full-on video on why I think the Clemson dynasty is over. But people, you can't be mad at Jimbo Fisher for using this new NIL system to his advantage and getting these recruits to come to Texas A&M and play at College Station. You can't really be too mad about him for doing that. I'm sorry. It's all legal as far as I'm concerned. It's all gravy, baby. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all the college football news. If I forgot anything, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Leave a comment if you think I'm a little off base on the Bryan Harsin situation. And I'll go ahead and I'll catch you guys in the next one.